This is Housebound. I'm Chris.
I'm Holly.
I'm Ashlynn.
I'm Greg.
And you're invited.
Hey, welcome to Housebound, a podcast we made because we needed company. In it, we talk about things that are on our minds, and today we're talking about musical instruments that we know and music lessons in general. So I think just to start it off, we can probably just kind of go around in a circle or whatever that turns out to be shaped like on audio, and mention...
You just kind of talk around the microphone like this, and then maybe if I edit it, it'll sound really cool. Panning from like right to left or right to left.
Best of luck, Chris. Yeah, we can just kind of go around and mention which instruments, if any, that we currently or in the past know or knew how to play. So, Holly, do you want to start us off?
I can. I have minimal experience with 3 instruments. I took some piano.
Wait. 3 instruments is a big number of instruments.
Yeah, but I'm not good at any of them.
Okay. I'm just saying, don't sell yourself short. Minimal experience is like, I played the recorder once in grade 4.
Oh, so. I played the recorder once. I guess 4 instruments.
Oh, here we go.
The numbers are growing.
I took piano lessons when I was a child, and then when I was a little bit older, in like junior high-ish, I took violin lessons. And then when I was even older in university, I went and bought myself a guitar and taught myself 3 chords. Well, YouTube taught me 3 chords. So
Acoustic or electric?
Acoustic, yeah.
Nice. Mm-hmm. I had totally forgotten that you learned the violin at one point in your life.
I still have one. It's just a terrible instrument to practice on, because if you're terrible and you live in a house like we do where we have upstairs neighbors, like nobody wants to hear that. Although the child that is upstairs, we don't want to hear ever. So maybe it would be
just a way to give
deal.
back, right? You know, give and take.
Yeah.
Cool. Chris, you're up next.
So I also took piano lessons as a child for, I want to say, probably 4 or 5 years. It might have been slightly longer than that, but my parents were both very, not insistent, but
adamant,
eager for us children, me and my 3 siblings, to all have some kind of experience with music lessons, be it like singing or playing an instrument. So piano was the easiest because we knew people who would give piano lessons that were close friends of my parents. So we all learned piano at one point. And I was disinterested in piano after several years. So I moved to guitar, specifically acoustic. And I took a year of lessons and then have just kind of self-taught myself stuff since then. I've also been in band class in elementary school and high school. So to clarify, that's grades 5 through 12. I played the same instrument all the way through. It's called the euphonium, also known as a baritone, and they're basically half-sized tubas. And so as part of the big bass brass section in the back, so we kind of carried the undertones for we didn't get any of the exciting parts, but that was always French horns or trumpets, but we just got to like rumble the stage with our sound, so that was pretty fun.
There's no euphonium trills.
Sorry?
There's no trills there that you have to do?
There's not so much, like, I mean, there's like boom, 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 boom.
That's the most exciting it gets, eh?
Yeah, pretty much. And I think that's pretty much aside of the recorder as well. That's pretty much the extent of my musical career. However, I did join a marching band for 1 year, and I played the same instrument, but in a marching band, the euphonium is shaped like a trumpet. So you have to hold it with your arms out to the sides, held like a trumpet, and the weight of that sucker. Like, imagine holding half a tuba like a trumpet for the entire marching band,
That sounds
the entire
awful.
performance. So yeah, it's pretty brutal, but I mean, that was my experience. So
That feels like merging like the nicety of like being a part of a band and merging it with like
Torture.
the extremism of like running a marathon, like in gym, like it's weird to blend both exercise and musical prowess together. It just doesn't seem to mesh well.
well,
but,
they didn't work you into
yeah.
it either. It was just, okay, now you have to play like this. And
They
then you
didn't
just
make you
keep
do
it
any
like that.
push-ups first or something? Like to
No, it's
make
not like they
sure that you
condition-
didn't fall over from exhaustion? Blowing out all your air?
It was our job to practice at home, so at home I would practice like that. And there's also no music stands. You know how some of the smaller instruments can have music stands attached to them so that they can see what they're playing. The euphonium doesn't have a space for that. And so as a result, you just have to memorize all of your chords, notes, which is probably part of what leads them not to carrying much of a melody ever, because that would be too many chords or notes to remember.
Sweet. Greg, what do you play?
What do I play well? Nothing. Similar to probably... I won't say Holly doesn't play things well, because she could play things well. But I definitely am not at all, like... super... I didn't get super far within either of the instruments that I know. So it's a super base level. I kind of built a foundation and did not decide to finish that foundation with any kind of construction. It's just like a slab of concrete on every single one of those instruments. So, but like, so I think, I don't know, Ashlynn, did you also start with the recorder?
I don't think so, actually. I probably knew another instrument before.
Yeah, well, there we go. Okay. Well, I started with the recorder as kind of that first introduction into music. And I feel it's like kudos to all the parents who handle that high-pitched little thing, that like they give their kids and say, here, make lovely noise. And, it does not work. So, but anyways, so that was cool. I thought that was sweet that you could like take it apart into like 3 pieces. I think I had more fun doing that than actually playing it. And then, my parents then maybe do piano lessons, classic kind of like homeschool kid type thing to do. I feel a lot of the homeschoolers I know in my life took piano lessons in some form or another. So, didn't get too far into that. I think my shining achievement was the grade 3 version of Star Wars main theme. That was my favorite, favorite one. So, and then, I picked up the guitar because as all young teenagers, usually like at least guys that I knew were like, I'm going to pick up the guitar and learn it. And so sure enough, I fell into that trend and
woo the women.
Gotta woo the women, right? Play those chords and somehow they'll come a flocking. So anyways, but
as long as you know Wonderwall.
I did not. So that's probably why they did not come a flocking.
Oh dear.
And then I also learned the ukulele, which is kind of like the cuter version of a guitar. So you even have a chance at, at a specific niche of women, probably with that one. So,
what specific?
But
island women?
The cuter women. The cuter guitar gets the cuter women.
There we go.
Is that how that works?
I don't think so.
They don't teach you this in school.
No. But I did again, like I ended up just learning some basic chords for like piano, guitar, ukulele, which is just enough to get by. And like, I do like writing my own songs, but they all sound fairly similar musically.
Come on. Don't sell yourself short.
No, I gotta sell myself short. I cannot sell myself tall in this at all. And so I think at the end of the day, like, because I didn't really dig into the different genres of music and learning how to do that within each instrument. I think that helps. Like when you know people are really good musically when they can actually blend in like this genre that and then shift it into this genre, you know, and so and can have like usually the bands that I've listened to that are really well done musically are those that can actually hit different genres and do it really well. So
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of I think the basis of yeah.
Or they might have a genre that they stick with typically, but they can express themselves stylistically different within and around that
Exactly.
genre. So,
Yeah.
which isn't like a hard and fast rule. Like you can have a band that sounds exactly the same for most of their songs, and people will still love them because they love that band's sound. But there's something to be said for musicians who are able to
grow,
play around, and experiment and
then there's definitely
work.
some sweet like electronica bluegrass songs that I've come across. It's a
that
sweet
is an
spot,
interesting
so.
combo.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I think for myself, I started quite young in a program called Music for Young Children, if you're familiar with it. So that is a program where they teach you, yes, the piano, but it's far more rhythm-based than it is piano-based. So in Music for Young Children, you attend classes with a parent, and because it's usually pretty young kids, hence the name. And throughout the class, you'll play like clapping games or ear training games. I remember there was this one where we had bread bag clips of different colors, and the teacher would clap out or like tap on a drum out a pattern of some sort or play something on the piano or something like that. And then we would have to, using the different bread clips and these little like symbols, just draw out on the carpet what sort of beat pattern they just played, like whether it was a quarter note and then 2/8 notes and then a whole note, and it would be something along the lines of 2 measures long, and then we would have to like shape that out on the carpet. And so it was very theory based, those classes. Like they taught you your time signatures. They taught you lots of musical theory. And so then by the time we actually got to the pianos, the hard part was the piano. The easy part was like reading the music, because that's what we were all so highly trained in. And so it was fantastic for teaching you musical theory. I had basically what is equivalent to like a half of grade 1, which is now called advanced rudiments. I think it's probably correlates to beginner rudiments by the time I was at like grade 3 in RCM, like Royal Conservatory of Music. If you're familiar with music lessons, you'll know what that means. If not, that'll just fly over you. It just means that I was much further ahead in my musical theory than I was in my actual piano playing by the time we finished that program. But it's a great basis. And then from there, I took just regular piano lessons at the end of Music for Young Children. And I took lessons when I was from grade 1 till grade 10 or 11. I think maybe just 10, but something like that. And then in elementary school band, I took the flute, and I really enjoyed that. And I was desperate to take it in high school band, but I switched high schools because my parents got married and we ended up moving, and my new high school didn't have band. I was crushed.
Wait, what?
I know. It's small town. They just do sports. So the arts was totally nixed, but we had this huge gym. And so there was no band, and I was so crushed. So I did choir, which was really nice to work on harmonies and voice training without actually taking voice lessons. And I enjoyed that, but I did miss band. I wish I could have been a part of high school band. And then later in high school, I think it was around grade 10 or so, I got an acoustic guitar from my parents, and mostly taught myself the guitar. I took a little bit of lessons later on, but I found them largely not super helpful. And teaching myself was the easiest way to do that. And then in, oh man, I want to say like 2 or 3 years after I graduated from high school, I was given a violin that I took lessons for a while and got to the point where I can like kind of play notes. But exactly what you're saying, Holly, it's super hard to practice that instrument because you are keenly aware the whole time that you are a nuisance.
Oh, yeah.
Like I have
and it's an instrument that you have to be confident with as well. Because if you're not confident, then you're going to screech anyway. And so if you're like, if you're worried constantly that other people are going to hear you, then you're not confident and then you screech and then it's just this like terrible cycle.
So I own like a violin mute, which is this little rubber pad that you put connected to the strings and the bridge that it leaves diminishes the sound by 50% easily, but it's still quite loud. And so I just still wasn't confident playing it at home because I do also live in a house with neighbors. And so I have largely stopped playing that one. I always tell myself that like eventually when Greg and I get our own house and we don't have neighbors, I'll pick up the violin again, but we'll have to see about that. And then I did teach myself the ukulele at one point. Never very well, just functional ukulele. And that was lots of fun to be able to bring along with me when I did summer camps as a camp counselor, because it was easy just to hand to a kid and teach him how to play. And because the strings of my ukulele were just plastic, it wasn't very hard on your fingers. So even if their fingers were little, just because they're a little person, they can still play the ukulele without like hurting the tips of their fingers. So that was lots of fun. Yeah. That's a bit about me. So all of us have had some sort of a musical lesson experience in our life. So we can go around the circle in the same order again and just talk a bit about your lessons. How old were you approximately when you started taking music lessons of whatever variety that was? Was it your choice or was it your parents' choice? And why did you stop? Yeah, those are the 3 questions.
Okay. I don't remember when I started piano because my mom played piano and my sisters all took piano. And at some point when I was very young, I started playing piano. And the actual lessons, I think, started maybe when I was like 6-ish. I don't know. And they weren't my choice and I didn't like doing them. Largely because sometimes my dad would forget me at the lessons.
Oh.
And I didn't want to go because I didn't want to have to stay there forever.
Oh, dear.
But I stopped when my mom passed when I was 9. So I got like 3 years of piano lessons, I think, ish. Maybe.
Yeah.
Violin, I started in junior high and I wanted to do it. That was my choice. But the lessons were, my stepmom and dad found me a teacher in the next town over and he was a very much older gentleman and he taught me Twinkle Twinkle Little Star in like 7 different ways. And that's all he taught me.
Okay.
So I don't know...
Oh.
If he was a little bit not there or if like there was going to be a point to it at some point, but I was just like, yeah, I'm not going back the next year. So I didn't. And then guitar, I didn't take lessons for. I just, other people taught me things and then I tried to practice and YouTube taught me things. So
Cool.
Piano, for myself, I don't exactly recall when it was that I started. I know that I was somewhat, quote unquote, young, but for some reason I feel as though grade 3 or 4 was maybe when I started with that. It could have been earlier than that. I really have I remember songs that I played and I remember the books that we used because my siblings also used the same books to do their piano lessons after I was out of that. Like, they were younger than me, so obviously we weren't overlapping with lessons, but it was, like I said before, maybe 4 or 5 years of piano. I think that probably was the max.
Mm-hmm.
So if it was grade 4, then that might have meant I was taking piano until grade 8, but that doesn't seem right. I think I stopped before then, so maybe it was grade 2 to grade 6 or something like that. And so anyways, it's pretty much, I've all but forgotten
Yeah.
piano. It's a distant memory. I just wasn't keen on it, and so I kind of had to beg to not do it anymore, but my parents were like, okay, fine. I mean, we're not going to waste money on piano lessons if you're not going to take them. And I think within a year or two, it might have even been the following year. And by year, I mean like the fall when the school starts up. That's when teachers start up lessons again, typically at the time. And so then that's when I took my first year of guitar, and I did a year of that. And then we couldn't find somebody to teach me the second year. There was like a standard for the guitar lessons, and we couldn't find somebody to teach me that second year standard stuff. And so we kind of put it off, and eventually 3 years later, I realized I haven't played guitar in 2 or 3 years. And I was involved with the youth group at the church that I was attending at the time, and they put together a youth music team for certain Sunday morning events. And so I grabbed my guitar and started teaching myself the chords that I had learned, which was, a handful, like G, D, F, E, and A or something like that. And those basic chords you learn in the first year or so. And then just kind of picked everything up from there, and have kind of run with that since then. So I haven't taken any more lessons in guitar, and I have a guitar as well. That was also gifted to me by my parents, like many people.
Yeah.
And you can get some really expensive guitars, but you can also get some relatively cheap guitars that are still more than adequate, and for what you're looking for. So before anybody runs around thinking that there's a bunch of rich kids doing a podcast about music, it's pretty much my...
I don't know if anybody thought that.
It's pretty much my parents decided, no, you know what, music's important, so we will make an effort to, whether that's through lessons or through instruments, try to accommodate that. And then the third instrument, the euphonium / baritone, that we never bought that instrument. We rented it from the school board. And we rented it every year from grade 6 through to grade 12. And there were a couple of summers that we kept it over the summer because I was involved with like a youth orchestra workshop in the city. Literal music camp. Although I didn't go to the actual literal music camp. So this was just music workshop. But there was a music camp. The reason I stopped playing that was because at the end of grade 12, I had no reason to continue playing. It wasn't like I was going into music full time or anything. If I had gone to like pursue a music degree of some sort in university or college of some way, shape, or form, then possibly I'd still be doing that. But I can't expect it would be too hard for me to pick it back up. But at the same time, I don't particularly have a desire. A guitar is portable, and you can play it kind of wherever, and people are keen to listen. A euphonium or violin, portable, but are people keen to listen? Well, maybe if you're real good.
Exactly. Oh dear.
For me, I think when it comes to lessons, again, I probably started at a fairly young age, like 6 or something like that, with piano. Piano is always the one that that is not too difficult, I think, for kids to kind of pick up.
Piano's a gateway musical instrument.
It's yeah, exactly. Just like Catan is a gateway board game, piano is a gateway to a musical instrument.
I don't think anybody was drawing that parallelism there with Catan.
Oh, I was. I had to share it. I had to share
drugs
it.
there.
So, yeah.
Just so you know.
Yeah. But yeah, I even remember, like, as a kid learning the whole idea of, like, I specifically remember how they say, like, make sure that your hands are above the piano as if you have like a bubble like underneath your hands to kind of keep them so that like the fingers are curved. I remember that. I don't think I ever had that great a posture though while playing. I'm pretty sure my wrists were like flat against like the bottom of the keys or something. But anyways, so I did it from a young age and continued on with that. Like lessons with my parents were not like where they brought in like a tutor, because they were both fairly well trained. And both of them, my mom mostly was the one, but both of them kind of helped with the teaching us, and like they bought books and stuff, and with a bunch of random songs. Again, that's why like I was really happy when Star Wars came up, because I was like, hey, this is something I recognize and I can show off to like my 5 friends or whatever. So did not end up showing it off to my 5 friends, but anyways, so
but that's always the key about music. When you're learning a song, it's easier to go and try to learn a song that you already know, because you just kind of fake it and play it the way you know how it should be, rather than my parents were always like, no, like you can do this song, like you've peaked with The Entertainer. You don't need to try that anymore ever again. Let's go do a different song that you don't know so that you can improve, right?
Yeah, totally. So yeah, I still like I got a sense for reading music on the right hand side, which is not called the treble clef.
What do you mean the right hand side?
The right hand is the treble clef.
Oh,
is that the treble clef?
The left hand is your bass.
I thought you were talking about.
See, I don't even know these words, but
I thought you were talking about the page of the music, and I was like, that's not how music's written.
No.
Yeah, I thought that's what you're talking about too. I was like, Greg, you're totally off base.
Oh, no. So right hand side of like the musical bars and stuff. So again, you can tell I'm super technical, but so I could play the right hand stuff, but the left hand was never able to really read that by sight. I was always kind of having to like count in my head and try to figure out where the heck my fingers were supposed to go. And so, but yeah, the sweet spot was when you could finally like learn a song and just know it in your head and not even have to bother with reading the music. So, so I think that's kind of where I ended up falling, was eventually lessons kind of petered off more into here. Dad's going to teach you some chords, and these will help with like with church and stuff. So, and then it became more about kind of learning like praise and worship songs and stuff like that, which tend to be very, very much the same chord sequence.
Yeah,
so
I was going to say, then you didn't learn any new chords.
Yeah, G, C, E minor, A or whatever, D. Yeah, so pretty simple stuff. So, but that was helpful, and that kind of helped translate into guitar, which was all self-taught. And yeah, I mean, I did get like an idiot's guide to guitar playing, which I read voraciously the first couple chapters and then failed to continue reading. But yeah, so that's kind of, I think those answers the questions, right?
Yeah. I think for myself, I started, like I mentioned before, I started taking music for young children classes when I was very young. I don't know what actual age it was, but quite young. And then I didn't stop until grade 10 or grade 11, somewhere in that range. It was my parents' choice for me to start taking lessons because I was so little. But I feel like I got a choice in it every year. So they asked me, like, do you want to keep going with this? And I think my answer differed depending on whether or not I had to do an exam that year in piano. Because if you have done a piano exam in the past, they are horrible. You have to learn, like, usually it's 2 or 3 performance pieces that you play for the adjudicator. And if you're doing an exam for the last, like, 2 months of lessons, all you do is play those 3 songs over and over and over and over. It is so annoying because you have to perfect them to a T to really show your skill in these songs, which means like breaking them apart, picking specific sections and just drilling that over and over so you can nail the fingering and everything, which is like just which finger you place on the keys and things like that. And And then often with exam, there's some sort of ear training aspect to it, or scales. So that year you'll also practice a lot of scales and a lot of those ear training exercises. And I couldn't stand those. Thankfully, my teacher, who was wonderful, wasn't big on the exams either. She thought they were helpful, but was willing to work with the student as to whether or not they actually wanted to complete the exams. So even though I have my grade 8 in Royal Conservatory of Music,
Oh, you fudged it.
I only took exams for grade 1, grade 5, and grade 8. I skipped all the rest.
Wow.
And then just did the jumps, which was so much better but I can tell you, after exam or even just like a really big festival, I'd be like, no, Mom, I don't want to take lessons the next year because it would suck. But by the time the fall came and music lessons were starting up again, I'd be like, yeah, I'll do it. But I can tell you my years ended on much better notes. Haha.
Aha.
If I didn't have to do a festival or an exam at the end of the year where you were just playing one piece over and over. Even if it was a piece you liked, you didn't by the time you were performing it.
I feel like anytime you have somebody grading you and they're called an adjudicator, that means that all fun has been stripped from the exam. Like
100%.
It's definitely like it's hands down. You gotta buckle up. This is gonna be intense. Yeah.
And they were stressful. That's a lot of stress to put on a kid. So I have 2 more questions. One is, how have you used your musical skill in the past? Like, what are different areas in your life where you have actually applied the skill that you now have? And is there any instrument or musical skill that you'd like to learn in the future?
Zero. I have used zero usage in the world.
Zero usage?
Yep. And things that I'd like to learn. I'd like to pick up the violin again and actually learn it well, because you can do a lot with that instrument. But it requires a lot of time and practice, and I doubt that I ever will do that. So we'll see, I guess.
Oh, come on. Be optimistic. You can play.
I'm fairly realistic. There's been zero usage of any of these skills, so probably I won't put the time in for them.
Oh, dear. A dose of reality.
I have not used my instruments outside of their, designated uses in like an orchestra or on a music team or anything. Like
a music team is using it.
How do you use
That's
an
what you
instrument
use
outside of its
instruments
usage?
for?
Outside of lessons.
Well, what I was going to say was I
have never used a guitar as pure wood to create myself a shelf.
I have never
I
used a
destroyed
guitar,
once.
to make a fire. Like what do you...
I have.
That's great. So then you have used your instruments outside of their designated usage.
Wasn't my instrument. What I was going to say was,
oh dear,
I haven't found any particular use out of those instruments outside of their respective environments, other than the theory and knowledge of the way that music works in general has given me a much bigger appreciation for not only music in general, but specifically because I really like movies, and movies typically tend to have scores or soundtracks with them that are original content. That really allows me to, when I'm listening to those tracks, to dive in mentally and really pick apart and appreciate all aspects of that music. And I still listen to music that has lyrics to it, and I still listen to, some pop music or some rock music or some whatever is on the radio, and I don't necessarily choose to listen to soundtracks or scores over top of that. But it has given me a much deeper appreciation. I think if I was to never play an instrument again, I would be fine with that, so long as I was still allowed to listen to music and kind of dissect it and be able to appreciate it, the emotion that's put into it, and the intentionality of the character themes. And I watch a lot of YouTube videos and follow a lot of YouTube channels that have people that talk explicitly about breaking down music in movies, and that brings me quite a bit of joy, just being able to see the way that other people can influence your emotional state with music. It's such a powerful thing. Yeah. And so that is the one way that I have used music outside of going to practice and playing it for a small group of people who probably, there's some people out there that might be keeners, but I don't know that there's too many people that would love to just go and see a random kid's music performance.
No.
Not your ideal Friday night activity?
No.
Not mine. Not mine. But I know that people came and did that for me. And so that helped me appreciate much more music as a larger concept. And I don't think there's any particular instrument that I would like to learn. I would like to learn the guitar better, but I don't know that there is a new instrument that I'd particularly love to learn. Although I never understood how people were able to get those little mouth harps to work that you put it in your mouth and then you twang a single piece of metal that bounces
against
up and down.
Your teeth or whatever.
And I have no idea, and it just makes your mouth taste like steel for the rest of the evening. And,
oh, totally.
Yeah, or spoons. I mean, if somebody wants to teach me that, but
I would like to see you learn the harp, the real harp, huge, because you're rather
the big one,
big burly man, and I think that would be a juxtaposition that I would enjoy.
That's funny. I can
Psalm 151 of Chris. I can see
start the GoFundMe for the harp.
Yeah, within music, I have found that I've used guitar for with worship, helping out with at church with the worship band.
Yep.
And also I think one of my fondest memories of using my small amount of musical skill is collaborating with my younger brother to do we did it for a few years in a row where we would create a Christmas song together and then perform that at the Christmas service, and it would just kind of involve I would do the music / make the lyrics for the chorus and the melody there, and then Joel, who he can't
I would do everything and my brother would be there.
No, I want to tread delicately in terms of talking about Joel's singing prowess.
Okay,
it's not all there, but he sings proudly, sings loudly, and it's good. So yeah, I think when it comes to him, he loves the spoken word poetry genre, and so he writes in that. And so what he would do is for the verses would just write spoken word poetry, which I would back with music, and then I come in with a chorus, and it was those songs were just golden. I love them, and
you still play them all the time.
Oh yeah, I'll play a little bit on the piano because it's all I know. So just play my own songs. Yeah, so that, and then the Star Wars main theme, grade 3 level. But yeah, I mean, apart from that, nothing too crazy. I think it's kind of a cop-out when some people say, high school or whatever, what you learned was patience and diligence and all of these things. And I'm at the end of the day, if you wanted me to learn patience in school, just give me a room with a countdown timer and I will learn patience. Why are we doing math and all of these other things? There's a massive amount of other things that we could be doing. So I would rather if something in
coming
school,
down harsh on music lessons.
No.
If they wanted to teach you patience by putting you in a room with a countdown timer, you wouldn't only be learning patience, you would also be learning psychosis.
Yeah, probably. But
that's a good one.
My point is more just that at the end of the day, you can have those values that you might pick up, but those can't be the main thing that you learn. So, and with me, I think with music, what I did learn was, I guess, like appreciation for music and the complexity of it, and just the ability to also create my own stuff. And also, I think just the ability to be able to express yourself. And those are all things that, are that I find valuable within that. So to take the question a little bit unliterally, that's the direction that I would go.
Yeah, I agree. Music can be a great form of like healthy self-expression, especially when you can combine a bit of that like songwriting aspect into it, or be able to play exploratorily on your own. For myself, I've used piano in the past for playing at church, and that was largely why I wanted to learn the instrument, to be able to play at church, and I really enjoyed that. And then for the last, what is it now, like over 5 years, I have moonlighted as a pianist for a local improv comedy troupe called Board of Directors. It's
Shameless plug.
So much fun. Yeah, oh yeah. And if you play piano, and if you have any ounce of confidence in your ability to play, and you really just want to rid yourself of that, try playing for an improv comedy troupe. Because it will remind you of just how much you still need to learn. It's really challenging just being able to play along to something that's so unexpected all the time. I'm always trying to expand my genres that I can play confidently on the piano, but it is very tricky. I recently did, though, purchase a keyboard that has some like backtrack beats that you can use with the keyboard, and that is helping me quite a bit to be able to learn different genres, because just being able to have like a jazz rhythm like gives you like the rhythm to be able to try stuff out and know where you're going, rather than just like complete silence and trying to like figure your way through. It's nice to be able to have those like backtracks, which I'm sure I could totally get off of YouTube or whatever if you just have a piano, but having them in the keyboard is just kind of handy because it gives you a list.
Convenient.
Yeah.
And then with the guitar, I use that lots at camp when leading songs, and then also at church when leading music. And that's once again why I learned the guitar, was to be able to play it at church. And so I've really been enjoyed being able to do it for that. And then I've also, Greg and I have performed at a few different coffee houses and things like that before, mostly for family and friends if they're putting on an event. And so it's been fun to be able to use piano and guitar, as well as some singing for that in the past. My violin isn't really good enough to use, but when I was taking lessons, I did perform at a church with a friend of mine, but that's because she was also my violin instructor. And we practiced those songs a lot in order to be able to do that. I think that's mostly how I've used piano, but I do enjoy being able to have a piano in my house to be able to use as like something fun to try, to flex my creativity, and to being able to keep working on it. And I do think it is a healthy form of self-expression. As far as any instrument I'd like to learn, when I first got the violin, I was humming and hawing between the violin and the saxophone. So at some point in my life, I would love to own a saxophone and give that one a try. But once again, that would likely have to be a homeowner situation, because those things are also very loud. And not always delightful on their own if you don't know how to play smoothly, or they can be a bit squeaky. So that's something I've always
I have
wanted
an
to learn.
additional thought.
Okay.
When I first picked up the violin, it wasn't the violin that I actually wanted to play. It was the viola, but I didn't know that instrument existed. I was like, what sounds like the violin in these songs, but is deeper? Like, what is that? Because I love it. It's such a pretty noise. So I would like to learn the viola if given the chance.
Yeah, that would be nice too. Totally. And then as far as other stuff I'd like to learn is just expanding my piano skills to be able to include more. I've been working on a bit of my jazz and blues piano, but it's got a long way to go still. So yeah, that's a little bit about us. If you ever want to hire out the Housebound podcast for your next coffee house.
Don't do it. We're all booked up.
Yeah. Does anyone have any final thoughts or conclusions or any just like notes of value that you took away from your music lessons and musical experience?
If you don't practice, you don't get to play that instrument ever again.
Oh, that's harsh.
It's true.
Now
though.
or never, baby.
Yeah. Well, like I didn't practice and then didn't use any of them, so.
Yeah.
I think my note would be something along the lines of, if you are practicing or playing an instrument and you fall out of love with that instrument, maybe an unpopular opinion, but drop it like a ton of hot bricks and find something that you are interested in, because I have seen people that I have grown up with that were maybe pressured by mostly family to play something specific and were met with pretty harsh criticism if they weren't playing that particular thing, but they weren't enjoying themselves, and there's no fun in that, and you don't get any value out of that. So if there's an expectation that you're supposed to be playing something, at the very least look at your options and go, what else is there that I could enjoy, and maybe make the move over to that. It does maybe mean starting over again, maybe mostly from scratch, but rather that than being stuck in some loveless relationship with an instrument.
Yeah, definitely just because you don't like piano lessons doesn't mean you won't like all music lessons as a whole.
I think I would just say that learn chords, because they make even the most beginner musician sound half decent to somebody who doesn't know music or theory or anything like that.
Because then you can
fake a lot with chords, and because it fills the sound. So I would heavily recommend, if you don't know chords and are just either just doing like picking on the guitar or just playing notes on the piano, learn some chords. You'll sound like the next Mozart within 7 days. So yeah, maybe not, but yeah, at least to some.
Nice. I would just say thank goodness for parents. I'm so glad that my parents got me into music. I think for a lot of people who I know that are into music or have taken lessons, a lot of times that first journey into music was because their parents signed them up for something. And I'm just really grateful for that for myself, because I've loved music and being able to play music, and I'm not sure if I ever would have pursued that if my parents weren't encouraging me to try music lessons. So yeah, shout out to mom and dad. Thanks.